We don't have choices. So we just got to get that meeting done. So the points to do the other side.
There's two statements we have to read before we start this meeting. The first one's in regards to Larry. Larry Mesher resigned from the position of mayor after 6 years at the post and having also served several years as a city council member. Larry was an instrumental part of many development projects, including Oak Park subdivision, Thunder Valley development, and the planning of the wastewater treatment facility. We are grateful for Larry's contribution and years of service to Peosta. The second one is in regards to citizen comment. The City Council of Peosta is happy to accept public comments at the close of our meeting. Public comments will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Please note that if any time a speaker appearing before council exceeds the time limits set forth or becomes abusive in language or behavior, the Mayor Pro Tem may declare that person out of order and refuse him or her permission to continue to address the council. With that, I'd like to start the meeting. Roll call.
Carla here.
Karen here.
Jerry here.
Kathy here.
John here.
I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda.
The agenda, please.
Oh, motion to approve the agenda. Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Carla, aye.
Karen, I.
Jerry, aye.
Kathy, aye.
John,
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion for the consent agenda.
I'll second. Carla, aye.
Karen, I.
Jerry, aye.
Kathy, aye.
John,
Public Works, X50 Omni site conversion.
So this item, these are for the 2 lift stations that currently are using an auto dialer, so it has a hard phone line wired to it. So we will be, so this equips it with the OmniSite hardware that is on all of our other lift stations. So we eliminate those phone lines, which is a huge advantage, but then also it's allowed to be monitored through an app, which then allows us to eliminate the Public Works city phone. So we'll have a savings on the 2 hard phone lines that are running to each of these lift stations, and then an additional savings because we won't have to program those lines won't have to be programmed to call a regular cell phone user. So this cost is for those 2 installs. Electric pump will come, this includes the hardware, and then they will come down and install the equipment. Now the the other 6 lift stations are also getting their software upgraded. And so that's what will bring everything into alignment and allow all of those to be monitored together. And that will be a huge advantage for them, because now that one phone is the one that's getting the call. So depending on who has the phone, they may or may not be aware of when systems are alarming out and some of the lift stations go. So this way they'll all have access to what's called the Guard Dog app. So you can, I mean, depending on who's on call or not on call, you may or may not be required to respond to it, but the awareness will be there for all 3 months, so that will be nice.
Mm-hmm.
So we know roughly how much savings this would be.
Yes. So it's about $1,500 a year for the Windstream costs, and then another $800 a year savings on the cell phone. So that's obviously compounded each year. So this is a nice upgrade. The deans met with the rep several times face to face. They've been out here, took measurements, because there is some apparatus that actually go in the box. So it's all queued up, ready to go.
Are there any other costs that go along with this?
There's the yearly cost for the Omni site, and we're already paying that for the other 6. I don't know off the top of my head what that is. Do you know?
That is 100 and I think it's approximately 100 and it's a cost per year per unit, which is still below the cost of it is $165 per year. And that's actually a lifetime maintenance, including upgrades. So when the tech goes bad, they are upgraded for free at that point. So it's hardware, software, radio board, repair costs. It's essentially like the warranty that guarantees it.
And we have it in the budget.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion for the XR50 Omni site conversion.
I'll second.
Caroline.
Karen, I.
Jerry, aye.
Kathy, aye.
John.
Moving on to administration. We'll set the public hearing date for fiscal year 20 budget amendment.
Let's just set the public hearing
12th, it looks like.
for the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for November 12th for the fiscal year 2020 budget amendment.
I'll second. Caroline.
Karen, I.
Jerry, aye.
Kathy, aye.
John, aye.
TIF policy 2019.
Did you all have a chance to review this? So you'll notice I put a December date on it, so we don't have to hurry. We can certainly do this, yeah, whenever you're ready.
Put this in.
We'll get it. Oh, now I need something to stick under this.
Use
We got
this.
that.
Use the gavel so I
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna review a few of the basics, but you guys stop me when you have questions. So We know we're just going to be using TIF to reallocate property tax dollars, so it doesn't change what the taxpayers are paying. That's important for the taxpayers, as well as us all to understand. But it does eventually increase the taxable value, which is good for everyone. Chapter 403 and Chapter 15A is what gives the council the legal authority to use TIF. In 1986 is when the government said economic development is a public purpose, so you can spend taxpayer dollars on it. Some of the things that we can use TIF for include mainly infrastructure, but it's also a job retention tool. And like I mentioned, it drives up tax values and can also have an impact on sales tax when you're talking about some of these businesses coming in. So the frozen base is the value of the bare ground, and then as value increases when something such as Fairway comes in, it continues to increase over the years. So everything above that frozen base comes into our TIF fund and can be used for the purpose that the council set. Now that the goal is to get to that blue zone at the end when the TIF period ends, and then you have this massive value that has been built that then hits everybody's tax rate, the counties, the schools, and our general fund. So the way that works is, the way the levy is affected is that the city, county, and school debt service levies are subtracted out of the total levy, as well as the PEPL and the instructional levy. So once those are subtracted, we're left with the actual dollar amount that we can calculate our TIF on. So for Peosta right now, this is the current calculation. So you can see the 2729 is the total that the taxpayers are paying per thousand. Now that, that's not just to the city, that's everyone. So those items listed out are not eligible to be captured for TIF. So those institutions still get those dollars. And then that levy rate per thousand at the bottom, that $23, is what we use to calculate our TIF deal. So when we're trying to figure out if a TIF deal makes sense or can cash flow, that's the figure we use. Now obviously this changes every year based on everyone else's tax rate. So this is something that's recalculated quite often. So before we can use TIF funds, we of course have to amend the urban renewal plan. We just went through that process. That's a long process. That's a whole other PowerPoint, but the project has to be included in the plan, and then we have to incur debt. That's a misunderstanding that happens pretty frequently. We can't just collect this money and then put it towards the project. You have to incur some type of debt, tell the county what that debt is, then that's when they allow us to collect TIF money, not before. But the debt can look different. They're kind of flexible with that. So a development agreement counts as debt. An internal loan counts as debt. If we're paying for a TIF project from the general fund, as long as you certify that beforehand, then you can pay yourself back. You can pay your general fund back with TIF money. So there's very strict requirements on how this has to be documented, but any of these things count as debt. It's not only typical what the general public thinks of as debt. It doesn't have to be a loan from an external institution. So everyone recommends having a policy to govern TIF, which is why we're talking about this, because we're just getting there, which is great, because like I said, it's strongly recommended. And they, a lot of people that have been in my profession for a long time, like to encourage you to focus on targeted infrastructure developments, as in certain areas where we would like to really see infrastructure expand, and rebate agreements for specific markets that we're trying to go after, commercial, retail, some of the things we've talked about, or other priorities that you may have. And then also encourage you to look at your long-range goals and what that may include and how you can alter your TIF policy to target those goals. So the document that we are starting with is just a draft, which I noted on there, because I think we gotta make it around and the council's gotta work through some of the things that you guys are important. So right now it includes, you know, goal of stimulating private investment, which is really what we want to do. You know, we don't want it to be all our money in there, but we want to know if we put a little bit of our money in there, can that trigger a whole bunch of private money coming in? That's really when we can see it, a huge benefit. We would also like it to keep a good balance between non-residential and residential tax burden, which you guys have done a really good job at. We're in a much more favorable position than some other communities. It's important to note that this policy doesn't legally tie you in to a TIF deal. So once we issue this, it's not like someone can walk in the door and say, here, I checked all the boxes, let's do our TIF money. It provides a guidelines. It's more or less to let people know when they don't apply, when they're not meeting any of the things, you know, any of the stipulations, but it doesn't require you to commit to anything. It hasn't legally tied the city into any financial agreements. Generally, it's considered the highest priority to use the TIF funds for public infrastructure improvements because those are things that are going to pay your residents back over and over and over again over a long period of time. Something I know that's important to us, and that was included in almost all of the TIF agreements I saw, or the TIF policies, is that we're going to set a timeline for these applications. We're really going to want them in early, which is, you know, maybe not necessarily a luxury that we've had before. So that will allow both the council and the developer to have that conversation early so that decisions aren't made and dollars aren't spent, that then the council has a difficult time deciding what you're liable for, what you want to be responsible for. And it's also a good conversation because there might be something we can do to help, or a more cost-effective way to do something, or a way that can tie a private project with future city development, which is, you know, the property we've been talking about. We probably have had private and public uses commingled. So that will really be a benefit, I think, is just getting these applications in early. So depending on what kind of project it is, it would require them submitted at the time they're submitting like a preliminary plat, or if it's for a specific building, we would ask for the application before they submit their building permit, or at the same time. So hopefully that gives you guys enough lead time to jump in. A lot of the policies have separate levels of engagement, and this is something you can, if you like this structure, we can go with it. If you prefer to have one base TIF commitment, that's also something we can do too. I sort of like this because I think that in Peosta we will have different projects that we have different interest levels in. So this has a base and expanded and then a targeted area. So the base program is your sort of standard agreement that would be extended. It's a 50% rebate for 7 years. And one of the example I saw and used in this included businesses that are going to be bringing 1 to 15 jobs to town. So maybe a smaller local business. But there's a lot of things that could fall under that category. So if it's an expanded program, we could offer something such as 90 up to 12. Now these numbers are all up to your discretion. That's why I highlighted them in the policy, because it's literally a placeholder. We can figure out exactly what you want. And again, this is just a guideline, we don't have to stick to it, but it's good to have a framework from which to start. And so the expanded would obviously include whatever your top end of your base, it would be more jobs than that. And then there's also a high quality job designations that usually goes with expanded programs, which is nice, and that references your average wages in the county. So I think this policy mentions like 125% of the average wage. So you're just encouraging a high quality jobs component, which also usually means that this business coming in would likely be eligible for state quality jobs money, and I know that has been leveraged in Peosta before, I believe with OD. So it's nice when you can tie these things together when they are able to get some money. So the targeted development areas, I think, offers you guys maybe the most flexibility. This is a part of the policy that I just highlighted and dumped in. This is obviously from a metro when they were trying to rehabilitate the Morley area. So for us, that obviously will mean something different, but you guys could decide, you know, if there's going to be a focus on quality of life or specific, you know, commercial businesses we really think we need to fill a gap. So you can get creative. So you could then offer a different structure to those targeted opportunities. So that allows, it's a way for us to kind of market ourselves and be attractive for those specific types of businesses that we are looking for. And maybe not, that you might not want to be that aggressive. That's something that, said, you could be creative or you can not. And some policies don't have that. It's just, it really depends on the community.
So the wording on, say like the base program be up to 50% rebate, so it's not locking yourself into 50?
Yes, that is correct.
I like to have the flexibility in the different areas. It's nice having those 3 different levels, not getting locked into just one program.
So here are the current TIF projects we have. You'll see it's kind of all over the 10 to 12 year provision was written in as there's an option for 2 additional years to extend the TIF deal if they committed to doing business in Peosta for another 10 years. So that's how those development agreements were written. The state really gives a lot of flexibility for those. So if there is something that is concerning to you or provisions that you really want to see added, we almost always have that flexibility. Home rule applies, which means as long as the state doesn't say it's illegal, we can do it. Or give her a shot. So there's a lot of different options. And so yeah, every deal is different, but having a framework is a good place for you guys to start, and it gives us something to, you know, a lot of these businesses when they're looking at places, they're going to do a lot of online research first. I mean, they're not going to reach out to us until much, much later in the process. So if we're able to have a policy, a general policy available to the public in the business world that gives them an idea of where you guys are at and what you're willing to commit. So this shows our unencumbered TIF dollars. So the industrial park is our largest TIF district. So when that base was frozen, it was frozen nice and low, which was a great thing. So, but then a lot of our TIF projects, old TIF projects in the industrial park, have run their life, and the value has gone way up. So we actually have, you can't see very well, but at the end, $1.4 million of increment money above that frozen base that is eligible to be TIF'd, but is not currently being TIF'd. So that $1.4 million is now being dispersed just like every other tax dollar. Schools getting their piece, counties getting their piece, cities getting their piece. So we can note that those dollars can be used for a TIF project. You can take, as long as money is in your TIF district, it can be used in another urban renewal project. It's not one-to-one, you know, Fairway dollars have to be used on a Fairway TIF project. So this is something to just think about as we approach the CIP and budget season. It's also important to know, and I know this is, I've heard Karen say this before, I mean, when we take money from that unencumbered TIF total, it's also coming, a third of it, out of our general fund. Because we're getting our slice of that 1.4 million too is following the regular tax dollar allocation. So it's not just all rainbows, but it still should be considered in that formula what's really best for everyone. Okay, so that is all I have on background information. How do you guys feel about the direction this is? How do you feel about its tone?
I like having the 3 areas of
basically
Levels, I guess.
gives us more range, like ability to use for different things.
It's more than we've had before, so I think it's a start.
Right.
It's a
Well,
start.
yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able, or, you know, even if the staff, anybody's called, they call the office to just be able to, whoop, instead of, here's what we've done, it depends, and,
I thought each project was individual, but it's not that, you're saying it's a whole.
you mean each, oh, yeah, so each TIF project, I mean, the projects have to be listed on the urban renewal plan separately, but you can use TIF money anywhere in your plan area.
Oh,
So you have a plan area, and then you have TIF districts, but you can use TIF district money somewhere else in the area as
Oh.
long as that project is on your plan.
Okay.
Now, there's also a lot of like,
Clear as
look
mud.
at that. Taking notes back there? The TIF districts do sunset. So economic development area has a 20-year life. That doesn't begin until you certify TIF. So you can put something in the plan, like for instance, we did Dollar General might be coming. We put it in the plan. That doesn't start its life until that would become a reality and we certify the debt. So with the different projects we have, that is something to keep an eye on, though, that some of those unencumbered TIF dollars are likely in districts that will fall off.
Certifying the debt's completing it? Or
You
starts?
certify the debt when it starts.
Starts.
So if Target wanted to come here tomorrow, so excited, and they said, we're coming, but we, you know, they're gonna go down by the Thunder Hills Exchange, but can you know, we're gonna run a sewer pipe down here, but we want a TIF deal. We would write up that development agreement that says Target's gonna pay for the infrastructure, we're gonna give them TIF rebate back for 20 years, 100% or 90%. Sign it, that document serves as the debt. We now owe Target money that we will pay with TIF dollars. So you certify the debt really before the project usually gets started. Now, sometimes if the city's gonna put in the infrastructure and pay ourselves back, then you do the project first. You know, borrow the money, do the project, and once it's done, then you certify that as debt. Just- So maybe if you guys want to, you can scribble this up, mark it up, and the November, maybe the second November meeting, you guys can think about targeted areas. Redevelopment's probably not the right word for us. I know that's often used in the cities, but targeted development area is probably better for us. You can do some brainstorming about what you think we might want to incentivize. And it's nice because at this point, I mean, the concept with TIF is that it's very little risk for the city. You know, we're saying that if you bring this money in, we'll lay it back out. But, well, it's a start.
Next is the cyber policy for travelers.
This is the additional cybersecurity for our liability insurance. I know we've had some discussions on this. $3,193. Unfortunately, in this day and age, it's just something that seems like a wise idea, but that's, I mean, this is for you guys to discuss, but I know that bad stuff can happen really quickly. I know in Ferguson, Missouri, obviously they went through a lot, but that was this sidebar to everything they were going on within their public safety was they then, just due to the media attention, were cyber hacked and it completely locked them up for weeks. So I think this is just a unfortunate sign of the times, but it's something I guess I have a hard time not recommending. You're kind of rolling the dice if we don't do it. I mean, and that's not to say we hopefully will never have to deal with a cyber attack, but
There's a lot of different ways they can get into, right? You know, I think it's a no-brainer.
yeah.
Looks like most of it's up to $1 million in coverage.
I'll make a motion to purchase a cyber policy from Travelers.
I'll second.
Karen, I.
Jerry, I.
Kathy, aye.
All right.
Next is the resolution naming depositories.
I struggle a little bit with how to present this to you guys succinctly. So I use that cash report that just shows the dollars in each of our funds and made, I think, some informal recommendations about some cash and how we would be able to move that around. But I think we have a decent plan about going and engaging with all of the institutions, which I feel really good about. So I had a good conversation with Paco, and they are able to insure up to $250,000 without us purchasing the additional assurance. So I think that's the route we should go there. Both of the institutions in town are active in the community, good partners. DB&T has always been great to the city. I know Karen had a conversation today about.
I did speak with Jeff Timmerman today at DB&T about the card program that we're currently using that has worked out really well for the city, where we have ghost cards for certain vendors, so that's the only place that credit card number is used. So if it's ever hacked, we can shut it down really quickly and we know where the problem came into play. But it also uploads into our software nicely, so that's working really well. And Jeff obviously doesn't want to lose our business, but he did say they'd like the bill to be paid out of our account, and we have a $75,000 credit limit on that, and they'd like to see money in a checking account basically to cover that credit limit. But they're not gonna, you know, like if we pay it down, we're spending anywhere from $5,000 to probably $7,000 to $8,000 a month on that purchase card. So if we're they're not going to hold us to having $75,000 in there every month. We can just kind of draw down, and then replenish, get it back up to 75. If that would be acceptable to the council, if you choose to go with Fidelity for the main check.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We'll keep that software program.
So you see the resolution includes amounts that will cover our needs. We do need some higher thresholds there. Just when you have bond proceeds particularly come in, you can be talking about several $1 million. So this just holds us as staff to accountability. We can't, those institutions can't accept over these amounts. And we would, you know, at that point, we would have to bring something back to you. So we would accept, we really need two motions here, a motion on the resolution and a motion to accept the RFP of one of the institution for checking services.
And you wanted that to be Fidelity. Right.
That's up to the council. That is purely a council decision.
What's the number for the resolution?
64.
I'll make a motion for resolution 2019-64, resolution naming depositories.
I'll second.
Carl, I. Karen, I.
Jerry, I.
Kathy, aye.
John, aye. Then we gotta name a place for our checking account.
Yes, please.
They had
Yeah,
0
that we
fees.
just talked about.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to have our checking account at Fidelity.
I'll second.
Caroline.
Karen, I.
Jerry, I.
Kathy, aye.
John, aye.
Additional lighting request at the hotel.
Unless anybody has, do you guys, unless anybody has new information, it may be appropriate to table this. I have not followed. Larry was gonna have a conversation, so that's, I don't know that I have any additional new information on this item.
So I think last time we were just gonna drive by and take a look
Yep.
at it, so.
I think Larry's gonna talk to him.
Yeah.
He didn't, nobody knows.
I don't.
I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second. Caroline.
Karen, I.
Jerry, I.
Kathy, aye.
John, aye.
Okay, resolution approving the 2080 agreement between the City of Peosta and Western Dubuque Community School Districts for shared use of parking facility.
Is this the first time for this? Or we don't?
No, we did not have one.
Really?
We did not, yes. So, we had a great conversation with the superintendent. It was pretty cut and dry. So this really is very basic. This doesn't address dollars or anything like that, but it separates the liability, which is really the much more important issue right now. So this is more a step in the right direction. We know as they grow, as we grow, I don't think this is the last time we'll be having some of these conversations, particularly as, things are reaching their end of their usable life for all of the items that are original to the site. But this is a good start for formalizing this agreement and assuring that that we're all covered and our insurances are naming each other as additional insured. So in case any little guys get hurt, they can be well taken care of.
We've been pretty
Never
lucky.
ever want to happen, but it's kind of a madhouse out there every once in a while.
We've been pretty lucky so far if we didn't have this agreement, so. Is this 65?
Yes.
I'll make a motion approving resolution 2019-65, resolution approving the 2080 agreement between the City of Peosta and Western Community School District for shared use of parking lot facility.
I'll second it. Caroline.
Karen, I.
Jerry, I.
Kathy, aye.
John, aye.
Next is a resolution adopting the pay scale for Peosta Police Department.
As discussed in the previous meeting we had, basically I came to you guys asking for the pay scale to be looked at and approved to proceed with potential hires in the future.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2019-66, adopting the pay scale for the Peosta Police Department.
I'll second.
Caroline.
Karen, I.
Jerry, I.
Kathy, aye.
John, aye.
Police officer job description.
This is just a breakdown of the duties assigned to the police officer for our future hires, also in our current hires that we have working for us. Just gives the basic description of what a police officer does for the city of Peosta.
Since the chief was hired, we only have 2 job descriptions left that have not been rewritten since I've been here. This police officer was one, and then the sergeant position, which is currently vacant, is another. So it actually already has been rewritten. I have yet to go over it and put it in the format. So we would accept your approval of the description, and then just more as a informational note, included the application and posting information that we would like to proceed and go out to the public with tomorrow to get the police department back up to full staff. We held off. I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page about that, but I think we're looking forward to it. I know they've been pretty busy the past couple weeks.
I'll make a motion to approve the police officer job description.
I'll second. Caroline.
Karen, I.
Jerry, I.
Kathy, aye.
John, aye.
Do you need a motion for the posting?
No, we'll post it as long as.
Other? Is there any others? Okay, going to the CIP department requests.
Okay, the this is gonna be quick. I'm just gonna hand you clean copies. There were a couple of things we added. So please use this for your scoring. But we will plan to discuss this more in depth. I know we had to rush through it last time, and then we didn't want to take a ton of time tonight. But so at the next meeting, when the directors will be ready to defend their request, please bring your questions, have anything ready, and we can hash through it all. But I would like to, by the end of the night, by the end of that council meeting, take those from you with your rankings on there. So then I will average those, and then I can get them back to you. I'll just email them back to you. But each project, you know, will then have an average of your 5 scores. So that will kind of show us where things are at, and that's when, then after that, we start grouping things together based on when you think they should be done, and start looking carefully at how we're going to pay for that. Just the operative word there. So take some time, but yeah, by the end of the night on the 12th, I would love to collect those and then start averaging those scores.
If you have any questions, just talk to you.
Yep, me, or feel free, if you have a department-specific question, you can definitely email one of the folks up here. They'd be happy to answer your questions.
Other business and correspondence. Any others? We are going to open it up to citizen comment.
On anything?
Yeah, citizen comment. The only thing we asked is just to refrain from, outbursts. So.
My name is Bruce Kaler. I live right over here at 304 Leslie Drive. Up until a few days ago, I thought I lived in the proud community of Peosta. Come to find out, I live in East Dubuque. Folks, this is deeply embarrassing. The behavior reported on in this paper is totally inappropriate. As a resident and a voter, I don't want to see any more of it.
What behavior are you specifically talking about?
I cannot hear you.
What specific behavior are you talking about?
I'm talking about the report in today's paper and the one a couple of days ago about the city council meetings that were so disruptive. I don't know any details. I don't know anything that goes on behind these stories here. But this should not be happening. I do not want to live in East Dubuque.
I just have some concern on the kids crossing over Cox Springs from Thunder Valley, and some people walking down from the school where there's no sidewalk. And I was just wondering if you guys could put it in your budget, possibly doing a sidewalk. And I would think that it would have to go not on top of the hill, obviously, so it would have to cross over down at the bottom of Cox Springs, and then cut over and go up towards the school. I don't know if any of you guys can see any kids walking, but I have.
That's not a spot you want.
Don't want to put
No,
them in danger.
No, you don't want them walking on the road there.
Yeah. That's something we can look into. We looked into that sidewalk over to the Seton School. We added that, so.
So you're thinking more down towards,
Down to the new development.
right down there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of kids now in my neighborhood, and with phase 2, they're pulled permits already for that, so there's just getting to be more and more. They're trying to get either over to Peosta Elementary or up to Seton, and
If we can get
it's
them.
like, looks like it's not that far away, but you have to be on Cox Springs for a pretty good chunk of it.
And that's not a road you want to walk
No.
on, so
No, I think we definitely need to.
either the right or the left side heading north.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Mm-hmm. Dean's, that's something you can take a look at.
I would think if you could cross over and stay in the right of way of Cobb's, and then come straight up to Seton, and cross over Burge Road and go more sidewalk, where the school property is.
We'll take a look at it.
Take a look at both of them, but I don't,
Yeah.
Thought
then
we
you
had-
cross the 2 roads though, that's.
Yeah.
Didn't we have some discussions with the developer? When they started down there, we were talking about the sidewalk. And I thought it was on our last 5-year plan, or else it was gonna get done. But there was
Yeah, I think I
discussions with the
remember seeing
developer, and I think there was something put in an agreement with the
Well,
developer.
Oh,
there
that-
is for sidewalk on Juliana,
Yeah.
the main road there, but I don't recall.
But we
if it
didn't
was
go
on
any
Cox
farther?
Springs Road.
No, it didn't come out.
Because the developer wouldn't own that property.
And then, yeah, they have put in the sidewalk on the north side of Juliana.
Did they put some in?
Yeah, yeah, which is very helpful because cars, when the road is open, cars come through there pretty quickly too, so.
So then
Yeah,
probably is time that we put.
Yeah, we need to just connect those 2 chunks.
So since we don't own those 2 chunks, do we have right of way easement or?
On
so-
Cox Springs, we'll have some right away.
So it has to be pretty close to the road then, within that 4 to 6 foot or whatever. Something to look at, take a look and let us know. Any other comments?
I don't know, I thought it might be helpful if the council develop a policy for citizen comments not to exceed 5 minutes.
Oh, you missed the beginning half.
Oh,
I read a little statement
okay.
about it. I don't know if this is something we have to read every time, but we should probably just post it on the website or something. It's a 2-minute, and it just, yeah.
Unless they get asked for an extension or something
Yeah.
like that and get it approved.
Obviously, we're gonna work and listen to everybody, you know, it's just,
Yeah.
we just wanna safeguard ourselves against outbursts and
Right.
kind of put it out there, so. Any other comments? If there's no other comments, we're gonna have to go into a closed session, so. That's officially the end of the meeting then. Thank you.
Someone like to make a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion to go into closed session. I made a motion, you want a second? Kathy?
I'll second.
Carla?
Ladies, you need to take your side. Carla.
Kathy?
Thanks, see you.
Kathy, we made a motion. Or Karen? Sorry.
No, oh, you.
To go into closed session. Huh?
Well, we get those kids' papers signed.
Yeah, but we can approve it if they're
Do you want me
gone.
to make a motion?
We already did. We got first, second. Wait.
Oh, yes.
Aye. Kathy?
What?
Aye.
Aye.